My name is Wes Spikerman, a senior boarding student from Wayne, Pennsylvania.
My name is David Mosley, a senior boarding student from Driggs, Idaho.
And this is Tornado Talk. Wow, it's nice being back on the set. First time since the new calendar year.
It's been a really, really long time since we recorded that episode. A lot has happened on Macaulay's campus since the last time we recorded. One thing I think I really wanted to mention was T-term. We did that,
yes.
Yeah, right when we came back from Christmas break. So seniors, unfortunately, didn't get to do that. We had to go do an internship. Yeah, required of all seniors. But for juniors, sophomores, and freshmen, they got to experience something very special to Macaulay, a 2-week experimental learning experience where teachers will teach something that they're passionate about. Coach Nelson Aseltine, he teaches about gambling, which probably isn't the best example to lead with.
Yeah, I've got another one. My brother, actually, he is a junior here at Macaulay. He went with Dr. Dietrich, our chaplain, and Coach McKegg, I believe, to a monk monastery out in Arkansas.
Really?
Yes.
What was the name of the T-term?
I don't know.
Monastery out in Arkansas.
Monk monastery out in Arkansas. But I mean, like, they seriously meditated during the days and like did a bunch of manual labor and all this stuff. And
super cool.
They all came back with these super sweet looking staves that they all carved themselves. It
was
was kind of
awesome.
neat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's also the Dr. Ritchie Southern Rock T-term. That one's super cool. You go up and you do like concerts and stuff, and you like do research and learn more about the history of rock and roll in the South. Super cool. But like examples like that. I mean, we have dozens upon dozens of different courses that people take for those
many different T-terms. Yeah. And then so then the seniors get to do internships. And with that in mind, I would like to introduce to the podcast our first guest of the calendar year, Ricky Wang-Polendo.
Welcome, Ricky.
Welcome, Ricky.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Ricky, if you could just tell us, let's see, what grade you're in, where you are from, and what you did for your internship.
So my name is Ricky Wang-Polendo. As Wes said, I'm a senior boarding student from Roseville, Minnesota. And for T-term, so the original plan was to do something in Minnesota. So I stayed home, and we have a family friend that was building like a small engine plane, like 2-seater. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool. We saw the plane. It was like just like the bare bones of it. Yeah. And it was like, okay, let's like add some parts to it while we can. And then it was Minnesota. And so for a week and a half straight, it was negative 30 degrees. And so nothing came in, and like it was already like too cold to do anything outside for like more than 5 minutes. It was like literally so cold. Like you could walk outside. Like I'm sure this happens in Idaho, but like you breathe and like you can feel the frost in your throat, and then it's just insane. Like you can barely be outside. Like there's snow on the driveway. There's no shoveling happening.
No.
And then literally after that week, there were 2 blizzards. There was nothing like we could barely do anything. There's no driving. It was so icy like after this, because after the 14, 15 inches of snow, it turned like 36, and then everything iced over. And so people were like crashing everywhere, and so no parts came in. We just stared at the plane, and then we did nothing. and so that was my T-term.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Not to diss on Minnesota, but that's kind of lame.
Not to diss on Minnesota, but that is why I prefer the South. It's just warm.
The negative 30, which then freezes over so that everything is ice.
Yikes.
That's brutal. Still really cool. Yeah. I mean, the idea itself is pretty fantastic. Building a plane, assembling parts, that's awesome.
The idea was cool, except it stayed an idea, and so
You know what? The effort was enough.
Yes.
So I guess we'll kick it off here with a little opening game we like to call Quick Fire.
Indeed.
Basically, we're gonna shoot you with some quick questions. You got to respond with the first thing that comes to mind. Yeah, I know.
Put me on the spot.
No pressure, right?
No pressure. You can't think about it. It literally has to be, instantaneous. First thing that comes to your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think.
Otherwise, you get seriously verbally berated by the two of us.
And everyone listening to the podcast will judge you.
This sounds amazing.
Heavily.
All right, let's start it.
All right, I'll start us off with the first question. Ricky, are you ready?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Really bad answer.
Favorite music artist?
The first person that came to mind was Kendrick Lamar.
Okay, that's a good
That's
answer.
a very valid
good
answer. Yeah, I like that one.
Funniest faculty member.
Patch.
Yeah, that absolutely tracks.
Mm-hmm.
Best place to study on campus.
I thought of the balcony on the 4th floor. I've gone there a couple times.
With the one that's outside, that's kind of like overlooking the chapel almost.
Overlooking. Yeah, it's like right out there.
But it's like open to the air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was actually really, really nice.
No, that's a really bad answer.
You don't like that answer?
Way too distracting. I cannot focus when there's other stuff going on. Hardest class at Macaulay.
Lions multivariable calculus.
Yeah, there's an argument that could be made for that class. It's just calculus in 3 dimensions. Not that.
Yeah, simple stuff. My bad.
Yeah, it's not that hard. Best dessert in the dining hall.
The banana pudding. I love it. I'm such a
Interesting.
simp for bananas.
I would not have expected that as an answer. Banana pudding. Don't
It's-
get me wrong. I
okay,
love
it's
banana
pretty
pudding.
good.
Yeah,
Had some yesterday. It was pretty good.
I like banana pudding, especially when they put the vanilla wafers in it.
They don't do that very often though.
But when they do, it's a special,
Oh, yeah.
special treat.
When they do,
it's good.
it's legit. When they
Yeah.
do, it's legit. But sometimes they be skimping on the vanilla wafers. And
No, that's because I went before and I took all the wafers, and so that's why.
You
That's
just-
what's empty.
He uses the scooper and only takes out vanilla
no
wafers.
way, no way. Shame on you, Ricky. That is just
Yeah, I
full
gotta
shame.
eat.
Full shame. Alrighty. I guess I wouldn't call this getting more serious, but we're just gonna kind of dive a little deeper. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I like the diving analogy.
Pretty common here at Macaulay.
big diver guy, eh?
Oh yeah.
So we ask this question a lot, and it's always interesting to hear the different answers,
Yeah.
kind of how people have gotten to Macaulay. So if you could tell us
Mhm.
what your journey looked like getting you here.
So Minnesota is very far away from Tennessee, so
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
it's kind of weird that I'm here ish. And then also all the other Minnesota guys, like I never knew them, and so like it's like, oh, like how'd I get here? And so over the summer, going into 8th grade, I did CLC camp. So it's like a common thing that you see some guys who got here. And so I went to this camp. It was a leadership camp over the summer, designed for rising 8th and 9th graders. And so I got a letter in the mail, and it's like, oh, here's a free camp. Like, you should come apply. And so I did, and then spent like the 2 weeks that the camp had, and I loved it. And so it was really fun. And then I saw the campus all the time because we stayed on campus, and then we did all these activities and met with like faculty basically.
Yeah.
And so after that experience, like, you know, Macaulay was on my mind, and so they just kept sending letters. Mr. Hughes was very adamant about making a Macaulay like present in my mind, and so saw all the letters, and then eventually was invited to like the scholarship weekend. And so I was thinking, okay, so I either have 2 options, like the high school I'm going to like eventually transfer in Minnesota, or I could think about Macaulay. And so came down and had the scholarship weekend, and then I really loved it. And so and especially seeing like familiar faces like from the CLC camp, and then having that like pre-established people that I knew, it was kind of a easy option to make, I guess. And so from CLC camp, it kind of just entered into that transfer to Macaulay.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got here.
That's awesome. When I never did the CLC camps, so I don't really know what they're like. I did the sports camps when I was like 10 years old, and that's how I got introduced. But what's like a day to day for CLC look like?
So CLC camp is pretty tough. It's more community service oriented. There's a lot of service. CLC stands for Character, Leadership, and Community, I believe. And so every day it's like waking up, like, I don't know, 7:30 in the morning, and then you go to like widow service. You help with them or some other organization in Chattanooga to either paint a house. Like that happens a lot. You paint a house for like 2 days, and then you like mow lawns, or you go to the food bank and help with there. And then in the afternoons you do something fun. And so there's a rotation.
Are you saying that community service
Isn't
isn't fun?
Whoa, what do you mean by that?
More
Ricky?
enjoyable.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to paint a house, but when the sun hits you from the back, it's not good.
Yeah. Okay, that's
So, and so there's a rotation of like fun things to do in the afternoon, and it goes from rock climbing to caving to hiking to a blue hole, and I think I don't remember what we did for the 4th there's like 4 things in the rotation, but I was actually a JUCO my sophomore year, but that year we organized like this robot fighting thing, and so they had these like robots on wheels in the innovation lab that had like this virtual like cannon that was on them, and so the kids would use these iPads that had like a little aiming thing, and then like the controls. It looked like they put an Xbox controller on an iPad. Like they had that attachment on, and so they had like the sticks and whatnot.
That's
and so it was
cool.
funny. And so what we did is it's so funny. And so we made this obstacle course, and that it was like a 1v1 basically. And so they couldn't see the course, but we put the robots in, and then they fighted. And so that was the 4th option then. But yeah, so like you do like tough things in the morning, and then in the afternoon you do something fun like that. And so go rock climbing, and then after that we have this like thinking time. I totally forgot what it's called, but
Deep and impactful.
yeah. Obviously it's been a little bit, but you meet with like a speaker, and then you talk about some just like heavy topic. Could be anything, honestly. It's either like Dr. Ritchie going about like the history of Macaulay. That takes like a long time.
Yes, it does.
Or like
no offense, Dr. Ritchie.
yeah, no offense, but or someone like Mr. Gibbons talking about something random, but I know something like that. And then at the end, it's like 10 p.m. Everyone's like super tired, and then there's a 4th meal. It's called canteen, but there's 4th meal for the kids, and then you eat, and then you go to sleep, and just do the same thing the next day.
All right, that sounds really meaningful and impactful. I like that. I've never done it, so I was very curious about that. Yeah.
Sounds very interesting. And just to clarify, you said JUCO earlier. Is that junior counselor?
Yes, that is a junior counselor.
Okay,
so that's
sorry. I was a little confused. Just wanted to
clarify
that one. Sweet.
Cool.
This is kind of interesting. So, CLC, you guys live on campus. So you were already used to boarding life before you came to Macaulay, or was it a big step up from 2 weeks of summer camp to 7-8 months of living with 50 dudes in a dorm?
So CLC camp was the first overnight camp I did, and so it was a big step, honestly. Those 2 weeks did go kind of slowly, like in my mind. It was like, oh, the first time I'm like, I don't know, like 800, 1,000 miles away from home. And so it was definitely a big adjustment to make, and I wasn't so used to being away from home. I was like glad to be back and like whatnot. But that like freshman year, it did take some establishment in the dorms and just like getting to know people to make that like home away from home. And so it was a little bit of a challenge to get used to boarding life, I guess, freshman year. But after that, it gets so much easier. Like by like second semester freshman year, I kind of got used to it.
And then you got sent home in March.
Yep, sent home in March. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't mind this.
So you started out in Founders, right? That was the first dorm you were in?
Yes, Founders.
And, like, if you were to choose just one faculty member who had like a really impactful, meaningful connection, relationship you guys had freshman year, sophomore year, whatever, who would you say that person might be?
I say Dr. Ritchie. Dr. Ritchie is funny.
He's pretty awesome.
I never had him in class, but it was funny to talk to him from like a non-educational standpoint instead of being like forced. It was cool to see him as a dorm head. One of my favorite things that we did, since Founders is smaller than the other dorms, it has like 30 people in it. It was more like a home, actually. Like the way Founders is laid out, it seems more homey in a way compared to like the more apartment style of the other dorms. And so having only 30 guys, we do like all these events for like the holidays. And so my favorite thing was for Christmas, we did a white elephant. And so underneath the huge Christmas tree by the spiral staircase, there's all these wrapped things underneath the Christmas tree. And they're just like a ton of different shapes. And so like there's like a massive box, or like there's like a pole. And so you don't know what anything is. And so it was funny, like seeing Dr. Ritchie just like direct everyone, and like all the yelling from the seniors, like yelling at us. Cause like I was a freshman at the time, seeing how like we'd grab something big, we'd unwrap it, and it's like this giant metal pot. And so all the seniors are like, I need that. And so like, as soon as it's their turn, like it's never yours. Like as the freshman. It's just like, oh, okay, this is cool, and it's like an Uno deck, like a deck of Uno cards, and so you're like, oh, okay, cool, I'll use this, and then some junior is just gonna say, no, that's mine, and, so, and then Dr. Richie's like mediating this whole thing, and so it's really funny. And so
Dr. Richie just takes whatever he wants, anyways.
Fair enough. Now that you're a senior and you're in Burns, which means you have some freshmen, are you confiscating possessions, just like those juniors did back to you?
A little bit. It's funny walking in and seeing them, like they get bored, right? Like freshmen, they don't have as much homework, and so once they're done, they have to use other things to like take away their boredom. And so I'll walk in and see them playing some video games, and so I'm like, okay, if I come back in here in 15 minutes, which is actually going to be 2 during my rounds, I see you playing games, like that's going to be 2 marks. Like you can't do that during study hall. And so I'll come back, and then guess what? They'll still be playing games. So it's funny.
So you dorm them, and then you take the Xbox.
Exactly, yeah. So like I make
had
their
to
life
do one of those,
10 times worse.
unfortunately.
You actually had to take somebody's Xbox?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Did you dorm them too?
I don't remember.
But this is interesting, actually. But one of the freshmen actually got a sword. I don't know how legal this is.
This is right up David's alley. This guy's got more swords than I can count.
It's crazy.
No comment. Wait, how did you bring a sword to
That's what I'm saying.
Metal, it's sharp.
It's
sword?
metal. It's not sharpened though.
Okay,
it's like
that's
completely dull, and so it's like a remake of some anime sword, but it's massive though. It's like actually just insane. And so like he like walked in our room one time and saw like this cardboard box that was empty and started stabbing it, and I was like, like you're about to lose that sword really fast. Like you can't be doing that.
That's your total walk.
Yeah, it's like you cannot be doing that.
Brought a sword to campus.
Sword to campus, stabs RA's cardboard box.
I don't think I've ever heard of someone doing that before.
Yeah.
Aside from you and your brother,
We would just use training swords. We had wooden training katanas. That is different.
they hurt debatably more
Yeah.
because you guys didn't hold back. You were like, well, they're not real, so we could just hit people.
Yeah, actually, when we were sparring one time, he hit so hard that when I blocked it, it actually snapped his sword in half. And then he had one smaller sword and like one slightly longer sword, and then he used both of them to hit me. That also kind of hurt.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I remember being invited into your room to sword fight, and little did I know I was about to get absolutely whooped.
Well, we've been trained.
Yeah, neither of y'all held back, and it hurt pretty bad. Good times.
All right, taking a slightly different avenue. You were by far one of the best musicians, pianists Macaulay's ever seen. Tell us a little bit about your role in the music program here.
Well, thank you. So on campus, I'm part of the wind ensemble, so the band, and so I play the tuba. And so for the 4 years I've been here, we played tuba. I played tuba, not we. And so there's an assortment of concerts throughout the year. And so the big one that everyone talks about is Candlelight. And so that's our huge Christmas concert at the beginning of December that kind of kicks off the festive mood. And so in that, there's all like choral, there's an orchestra, which I also play in. I also play the tuba in the combined orchestra with the band. And so it's a huge thing. And so I've just been playing tuba for a bit. I started in middle school, and so I just continued it. And also, I'm also in the pep band. And so there's no tuba in the pep band. It's called a sousaphone. And so it's the big thing that you wear that kind of comes above your head, and it's like a giant bell.
That's huge. Is that really heavy? It looks really, really heavy.
It looks really heavy. It is not that heavy, but it's just really awkwardly placed. It's around like 30, 35 pounds on your back. And so, but it digs into one shoulder. The whole thing rests on one shoulder. And so you get a huge knot right there. And so I remember the first freshman year when we played at CCS, the first game of the year, away game, which away games suck for the band because we have to lug around everything, which is honestly the worst thing ever. But it's a lot of conditioning, so you get used to it.
Weight training for the pep band.
Exactly. But we're on the stands, and I remember being in so much pain because of the sousaphone, because there was what you're supposed to have on the ring around that you put on your back is a pillow. It's called a pillow. It's like a cushion that goes on the one part that rests on your shoulder.
Yeah.
I did not have that, so it was just the metal pipe.
Oh.
It was just laying on my back the whole like laying on the one shoulder, and so like I'd have to pick it up and just hover it over my head and just like massage my back, and so it was pretty painful. But like now, I don't feel anything now. So
Did you get a pillow or do you still?
I do have a pillow now, which helps a lot. But it likes to slip the other way, so then it's just like thin fabric instead of like memory foam resting on my back.
Oh,
Ouch. That just sounds horrible.
Just sounds
Horribly
so
painful.
painful.
Yeah.
So painful. Oh, all right. I'm gonna take us away from this topic because this sounds so painful. Ultimate Frisbee, lesser known sport at Macaulay. Our very own co-host, Big Dave here, has recently joined the team.
It is my first year, yeah.
I know he is not nearly as good as Ricky.
I'm
after
not.
Ricky absolutely destroyed my dorm in Big Five this weekend.
It was pretty brutal.
It was painful. It was painful to be a part of.
I enjoyed it very much.
Oh, I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did.
It was fun for me to watch, actually.
To be honest, it was a very fun game to play in. It was a very fun game to play in. I've never seen Ricky and Jonathan just
It's like
we
head
were
to head.
going real crazy.
And it was it was awesome. It was awesome. Back to the team though. How long have you been a part of the Ultimate Frisbee team?
So I started in freshman year. In middle school, actually, like I threw Frisbee around with my friends, but I never played Ultimate until I got here. And so I heard about it and I was like, oh, isn't that the sport that you throw a Frisbee around? And so I came and then I tried it out and I really liked it. And so I started freshman year. I've been doing it since now. And so
Wow.
it's been 4 years. But we started playing like actual games basically sophomore year because obviously
Yeah, right.
something happened in the spring, which is our season. So we have our season in the spring. We go around, we go to different tournaments, either in like Knoxville or in here in Chattanooga, and then state happens in Nashville. And so it's just all around Tennessee. And sometimes we're supposed to go freshman year to Atlanta to play in a game, but that didn't happen. And so we'll see if we do that again this year or not. And so, yeah. And so like the team travels to different places. It's kind of hard to play Ultimate here because the schools that like normally like the sports at our school play against, they don't really have an Ultimate team. Baylor does have an Ultimate team,
But they're horrible, so it's not even really that much of a challenge.
I mean, they try, and so but we try a little bit harder, and so obviously we whoop them every time, and so
That's true. Just recently, we went up against them in a scrimmage. Was
We
that last
did.
Tuesday?
that was last Tuesday.
I got to play in that. It was so much fun.
As the non-Ultimate player here, I will say the reputation of the Ultimate team hasn't always been great. A lot of people don't think it's a real sport, or they think that you guys don't have to be real athletes. Let me get there. Here's your chance to refute all of that. Like, describe, because y'all practice a lot.
We do.
And games are tough. Could you just give us a rundown of like how many practices you guys have, what that looks like, how long games are, kind of the more the side where people are gonna be like, wow, like this is no joke.
So when our season starts in spring, we have practice Monday through Thursday, and so it's in the afternoon. Starts at like 3:45, goes until like 6 usually, and so
Oh wow.
they've since the daylight's a little bit longer in the spring, they take us out there and keep us out there, and so the sport is a lot of running, and so it's like bursts of sprinting, and so it's a lot of running if like the whole team is good, and so like if the disc is moving, you run actually a lot. It's not like soccer where you can kind of just stand and like jog a little bit along the edges, and while the ball's on the other side, like on the Ultimate field, it's like you're forced to always be like aware of your position and sprinting away from action or to action. And so games usually last about an hour 15 minutes. And so you're doing that for that long, and then in like tournaments you have like 3-4 matches, and so it's a lot of running and sprinting and like jumping, and there's also diving, and so you can lay out for discs, and so it's
Diving, you say?
exactly your forte. And so it's a pretty big thing to like when the disc is a little bit out of your reach, you can see like in the pro level like how acrobatic they are to like dive and just like catch the disc and slide against the ground like a penguin. And so it's actually it's pretty like arduous, like doing Ultimate. You sprint around, you're always like you're always huffing and puffing the whole time.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, obviously I'm not very conditioned, but like when we were up against Baylor, after like 2 points, I was totally gassed, and I was just like, I'm trying to keep up with a ninth grader who's like so much faster than me. I'm like, and I'd only like sprinted up and down twice, but it's full speed. It is it's serious.
No, it's serious. It's like football, like so, like you're always on one-on-one man coverage the entire time. And
it's
so, like,
exhausting. Yeah.
Wow. And you guys can only sub after a point, right?
Yeah. So the line that comes out, the 7 people that come out into the game, and then once the disc is in motion, they have to stay on until either an injury happens, then you can sub one out, or the point ends. And so we've had like practices where a point lasts literally like 10, 15 minutes, and it's just like 15 minutes of just sprinting. It's just like the worst thing ever. But
it's
like
miserable.
And then people's decisions kind of go out, like the right thinking goes out as soon as you get tired, and so that drags it on, and so it can be long. Just like the 7 out there that are playing, they stay out there.
Yeah. I guess kind of to wrap it up, we've got one last question for you. This is, again, almost a little more serious. What's something you're looking forward to later this year at Macaulay?
I mean, since it is second semester, I think the big thing on most people's mind, especially you can hear it in chapel after all the announcements and Mr. Hopping's there, is Duck Day. And so, I mean, a little bit of the excitement is ruined since I'm in Kyokau, so I'll know exactly like what goes on.
I think all of us are in Kyokau, so we'll all know.
We all know what's happening, and so like it'll be fun though. Like not Kyokau, Duck Day is such a huge thing at Macaulay. It's just like a day where you can just have fun and let loose, and I'm really looking forward to that as a second semester senior, and just to enjoy that one more time.
It'll be a lot of fun. I can't wait for that one.
I guess I kind of want to ask one more question. What's your favorite part of Duck Day?
It's a little unknown fact about Duck Day is that there is a faculty-student ultimate game, and so it's a time where I can trash talk Senior Teague and also Mr. Shoemate.
What about Coach Sansbury? Or is he too good to trash talk?
He's a little too tall for me to trash talk confidently, and so I stay away from that. I know my place, and I know where I can do and what I can say, and so what I can say is directed towards the other faculty.
I think he was going to say inferior or something like that.
Those are your words, not mine.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. So I guess to wrap it up, we've got a final game, a little something we like to call Guess That Teacher. Man, we still got that harmonized.
Easy peasy. All right. So, Ricky, the way this game works is we're going to give you 5 random facts about a teacher at Macaulay.
Oh,
right?
Boy.
Using those facts, after we've listed all of them, you're going to try and guess who that teacher is. Very simple. Are you ready?
I am ready, yes.
Fantastic. I'll kick it off with the first fact. This teacher has lived in 7 different countries.
Yep. Second fact. This teacher climbed Mount Fuji on a whim once while out getting groceries.
This third fact might give it away. This teacher lived in China for the first 18 months of COVID.
Fourth fact. This teacher spent 6 years playing Gaelic football in tournaments across Asia and the Middle East. That tracks for this teacher. That's pretty funny.
That is insane. Yeah. And the final fact, I don't believe this one.
This one's true. It's amazing.
This teacher wrestled a bear during a summer internship. What? I'm going to need to ask about this.
Yes.
These facts are crazy. This is a superhuman. I don't know who this is. Oh God. You said China, so that makes me think about Mr. Murphy, but I feel like it's not.
Because he didn't live there during COVID. He lived there when he was in high school.
I don't know who lived in China in COVID.
Well, let me walk you through the thought process here. COVID, pretty recent. If they were living in China during COVID, they couldn't have been working here, so it's probably a more
relatively
a
recent
teacher, hire. Right? Yeah.
Maybe the last 2 years or so.
Is it Dr. Dobrin?
Yes, sir. Ding, ding, ding. Oh Dr. Jessica Dobrin. So she works in our science department, and she teaches AP Environmental Science as well as an honors chemistry course. She is also now living on the 3rd floor of South Hutch, so I get steered all the time as a faculty dorm member. and she is absolutely fantastic. Always willing to entertain interesting conversations about the environment or her many travels across. I mean, when she got her PhD, she rode for Cambridge. Super cool. She's telling me the story of her and like when she got to meet the imperial family of Japan when she was living in Tokyo. Like it's crazy. Some of the conversations, I think she might just be lying to me, and she's just trying to see what she can get away with because some of them are so outlandish they have to be true. I don't know. It's really interesting talking to her though. She's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Love Dr. Durbin. I was bummed. I was supposed to be in her class this year.
Really?
But I had to switch out for some other scheduling things.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. It was unfortunate. And I know I said last question, Ricky, but I've got just one more because I like to ask questions. We ask this to everybody. What is a piece of advice that you would give to younger students at Macaulay?
A device, you said?
Advice.
I don't know, an iPad?
Sorry. I'm a little stuffy here.
Yeah.
Like, let's cut me some slack. Or not.
No slack.
Device.
Start working hard early. Like once you get into that mindset and you know like what you can do, what you can accomplish by working hard, you'll want to do that more later on. And so like you'll have that reliable tool to go back and you know how to organize, you know how to do work like quality work, I guess, in a way. And so having that mindset at the beginning will definitely help later on and just keep it. Even if you start to slip, like you can always think, oh, like I remember freshman year, sophomore year when I was doing all this, like, oh yeah, look how easy it was. Like, let me just apply that now. And so like once you start that early, like starting things early is so much better. And so having that I think is really good. And so for younger students coming up, work hard.
Awesome.
I love that answer. That's fantastic.
Really good advice.
That definitely would have helped me out a lot during my freshman year.
100%. 100%. Well, again, Ricky, thank you so much.
Thank you for being on the podcast.
For joining us today.
Absolute pleasure to have you on.
Always.
Thank you so much for having me on.
It was great.
It was a lot of fun. Shameless plug for our social media. Go check out Tornado Talk on Instagram at Tornado Talk Podcast, I think. That sounds pretty cool.
Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram. You might have a TikTok. I don't know. You can figure it out. Look it up. You'll get it. Subscribe. All that good stuff.
We're everywhere. Always watching. Sorry, was that too dark?
Nonsense.
A little bit.
Anyways, join us next week for more hilarious stories, fun times, and interesting people on Tornado Talk.